What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Jets Roundtable. And we got a special show because we got Ryan and Matt in the Jets media studio. We are missing Jake right now. We wish Jake was here with us, but it's okay. We still got Jake with us here on the show. Let's get straight into business. We'll start off with you, Jake. How you doing, my friend?
I'm a little sad. I have major FOMO. I feel like this was targeted, and I'm wondering if I'm still a valued member of the roundtable, as I'm not actually a part of an in-person roundtable.
Well, Jake, you know I asked you if you're in the New York area because I wanted you here, and you're still over there in Houston, and we appreciate that. But we are excited, selfishly, as New Yorkers, to get you back to where you belong in New York. So it's all good, though. We're very fortunate to still have you here with us. Ryan, first time here in the studios. Matt's been here before. Great to have you here, man.
Dude, it's awesome. This building is incredible. If you haven't seen Richie's tour of his studio, you have to go check it out because it is very impressive.
Yeah, I did make a vlog of it just to kind of like, for my own sake, when I look back on it, it's kind of like a little time capsule. Like, oh, that was a good time, because this studio, unfortunately, is going to remind me in particular of Aaron Rodgers' Achilles. Sorry. That's what this studio is going to remind me of this past season. That's the only thing that's coming back from that season. But Matt, it's good to have you back here, my friend.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I love being in the Jets media studios. It's great to get Ryan up from Jersey. And one of these days, we're going to get Jake Asman back on the island here. And exciting times. Let's do it, baby.
I guarantee you one day, all four of us will be together in person to do a Jets roundtable. Probably won't be here because we're out of this spot March 1st. But we'll find out a way to get all four of us in person. So, folks, welcome back to the Jets Roundtable. Please do us a favor. Simply hit that thumbs up button on your way in and subscribe here to the AFC East Roundtable. The Jets Roundtable is live every single Thursday at 1 p.m. EST. We're excited to give you guys a lot of off-season content. And in this show, we're not only talking about the New York Jets, as you guys know. This is the AFC East Roundtable YouTube channel presented by Roundtable Sports. So we will be talking about the Miami Dolphins. Vic Fangio, no longer the defensive coordinator. Gerard Mayo is now the head coach of the New England Patriots. And the Buffalo Bills are on the couch with the rest of us. So there's a lot of things to break down. But before we get into the rest of the stuff regarding the AFC East, we got to talk about our New York Jets, of course. So one thing I do want to start off with is we heard from Sauce Gardner himself kind of tell us two names in particular in the free agent market that he wants the New York Jets to pursue. That was Calvin Ridley and T. Higgins. Now, he quote tweeted a tweet of mine just asking the Jets fan base, is there any free agents that you guys are thinking about that no one really is talking about? And that's what Sauce Gardner had to say. And of course, the media being the media, they made it seem like Sauce wants both of them. That's not what he meant. He wants one of the two. So I'll start off with you, Jake. As T. Higgins and a Calvin Ridley, one of those two, are they attractable for you as a Jets fan to bring in here to load up this offense around Aaron Rodgers?
Well, Richie, I think you buried the lead. You are the reason why this discourse is even happening, because it was your tweet that Sauce responded to, which was awesome. Look, I would take, I mean, you got to rep him after what do you get? In fact, I'm rocking a Sauce shirt as well. So
I love it.
There you go. Everywhere. I mean, look, I would obviously be thrilled with either one. I would prefer Higgins, but I think Higgins, there's a huge question on if he's even going to hit free agency. They could use the franchise tag on him. They could just extend him. And even if he does hit free agency, he feels like a guy that is probably the number one target for most teams that need a receiver. So it's going to be challenging, I'm sure, for the Jets to get him. If they get him, I would be thrilled. And then Ridley, I think, is a really solid wide receiver 2. I know the Jets were connected to him a few years back as a possible trade candidate before, ultimately he had the suspension and then he ended up getting dealt during that suspension. So it'd be fascinating to kind of revisit that because he wouldn't cost you as much as Higgins. And it does feel like, given the Jaguars situation with their cap and their franchise tag likely going to Josh Allen if they can't work out a long-term deal, feels like he could actually hit the market. So I'm definitely in on either guy. I think it's going to come down to what the status is for either guy actually hitting the open market.
Very interesting. Ryan, I know you made a video on this topic already. Which one of those two players would you prefer, or would you be open to both? If not, I mean, obviously we're not expecting both of them, but do one of those two spark more interest than the other?
I like both of them. I really wanted Ridley a few years back when you could have traded for him. So if you could get him now in free agency, that would be awesome. But like Jake alluded to, the franchise tag I think is going to come into play. And I think T. Higgins gets franchise tagged over in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, when he renegotiated his contract this past offseason, wanted T. Higgins there as part of like the solution. So I think they go one more year with him there. And then you're looking at Calvin Ridley. And I think, like Jake said, what happens with Josh Allen? I think it might be easier for them to just go to Josh Allen and say, hey, we can give you the biggest edge rusher contract or whatever it is, because that's, I feel like, a little more justified than trying to secure Ridley on a big time wide receiver contract when you can hit him with the tag for 21.5. So I don't think either guy actually hits free agency, but I'd be tickled pink with either one as wide receiver 2. I think Higgins probably provides maybe the size profile that I'd like to see. 6'4".
I like it. How about you, Matt? You want Calvin Ridley, T. Higgins?
Yeah, I like both of them, honestly. And my preference is probably T. Higgins. And I think Ryan brings up a really good point about his size profile, complementing Garrett Wilson really well. A little bit of a jump ball threat, red zone guy. Is still young, just 25 years old. But I do think that there's a chance he ends up back in Cincinnati. And if he does hit the open market, I think he's going to get paid heavy. So if he's out of the Jets price range, which, let's be honest, they have a lot of things they have to do. They have to bring in offensive linemen. They need wide receivers. So it'd be nice to just say, oh, get the best of the best at every position. That's not always the most realistic thing. But for Calvin Ridley, I think he's a good fallback option. Again, not my probably preferred plan, but 1,000-yard receiver, 8 touchdowns, had a really nice bounce back season in his first year back with the Jaguars. And I think I'm all about adding more weapons to this Jets offense. I think he'd be a good one.
Yeah, and it's no secret that the New York Jets are going to go after a big name receiver next to Garrett Wilson. That's been the news even like in the middle of the season. We're like, yep, we need another receiver. Sorry, Alan Lazard, but we definitely need to bring in another big-time weapon. And Garrett Wilson is someone that we really need to start appreciating a little bit more, in my opinion, as Jets fans, just because of we finally have our number one receiver, and now we're already in an off season of we need another receiver. And it's refreshing that we're not looking for a number one. We're looking for a number 2, right, Jake? We have our number one receiver. Usually the topic is we need a number 1. We need a number 1. Well, we don't need one, and his name is Garrett Wilson. So how do you think a dynamic duo of Garrett Wilson complementing T. Higgins or Calvin Ridley? And obviously those are not the only two names, right? Devontae Adams is obviously linked to the Jets, even though the hiring of Pierce makes it a little bit more unlikely. Michael Pittman is another free agent. There's so many wide receivers the Jets could be linked to. And I also think there's probably a wide receiver the Jets are going to be pursuing that nobody's talking about. So what's your overall thoughts of Garrett Wilson and the overall wide receiver room in general? Because you got guys like Jason Brownlee, Xavier Gibson, 2 promising rookie seasons that will probably be part of the rotation, I would say, 5 or 6 wide receivers. So how do you look at this receiver group heading into this season as the Jets pursue that number 2 option next to Garrett?
I think the beauty of having Aaron Rodgers coming back is you don't need to have a stud at every wide receiver spot for this offense to be successful. Because I expect more from the tight ends next year with Conklin and Rucker getting Rodgers throwing to them. I would expect, I don't know, maybe that Nathaniel Hackett learned in week 8 that Bryce Hall is really good as a receiver. Maybe Aaron Rodgers knows that and could check it down to Bryce Hall a lot more. So I think getting a wide receiver 2 is important because you got to protect yourself in case something were to happen to Garrett, and you just need more depth there. I also think if Lazard's your 3 or your 4, you could live with that, assuming Rodgers is back and he makes him better. But you don't want to bank on that. So look, if they went Higgins, I wouldn't mind it, but the strategy very easily could be Ridley because he costs less, take a flyer on someone in the draft, and then go all in on maybe a lower tier wide receiver that is available on like the second wave of free agency. Like last year, they signed Mecole Hardman for what, like $4 million, whatever it was. So who's that guy they could bring in for like that low cost to kind of complement the room? So they got options. I'm not going to complain if they invested a huge amount of money, let's say, in a guy like Higgins if he hits the market. But as long as they come away with someone, I think that's enough given what they already have in-house with Rodgers back.
Now, Ryan, is there a name that no one's talking about with wide receivers? Because I feel like the obvious ones are the names we've already talked about on the show. But the reason I'm bringing it up, not a free agent, maybe someone that's under contract that could potentially be moved. I mean, we saw the Jets land Brandon Marshall randomly. We saw Tyreek Hill out of nowhere. Let's not forget, nobody expected Tyreek Hill to get traded from the Chiefs. And all of a sudden, we all had the same experience. Adam Schefter's like, oh, Tyreek Hill's about to be a Dolphin or a Jet. Everyone was like, what? What do you mean he's supposed to be a Jet or a Dolphin? And then he ends up going to Miami. So is there someone that you can kind of predict, and these things are hard to predict, that could shake loose that no one really expects?
Yeah, so for me, that's T. Higgins, or not T. Higgins. That's Cortland Sutton.
There we go.
From Denver. That is my guy. 6'4", big body dude. Denver is in cap hell. They are 25 million, 24 million over the cap right now. They're going to cut Russell Wilson. Even if they designate him a June 1st cut, you're talking $60+ million over the cap. They got to make some room. So I think it might have to happen via trade because his contract is actually favorable, but 2 years, about $13.5 million the next 2 years. You could guarantee all that money to him if you wanted to, and then you have him locked in for the time period you have Rodgers, and then at least you can make a decision if you want to extend him on a longer-term deal. The size profile seems to make sense, and we have his wide receiver coach. When he was drafted in 2018, Zach Aziani was the wide receiver coach for Denver, and he was there until last year when he came over to the New York Jets. So I think there's that connection as well. I would love to see it happen. You know, if you have to give up a 2025 pick in some capacity to facilitate it, I think that's the way you solve wide receiver.
Well, Cortland Sutton is definitely a name that I'd be open to. There's obviously other names out there that are free agents, but Sutton is someone that I feel like could be an unexpected shakeup with what's going on in Denver, which is very unpredictable. Matt, how about you? Is there any names that no one's really talking about that you can see shake loose?
Not necessarily a trade, but I feel like this free agent doesn't get talked about nearly as enough as some of the other guys, and that's Michael Pittman from the Colts. Yeah. I think he's someone who would fit in really nicely here as well. He's a good run blocker, which I know that's not sexy for a wide receiver, but that's sometimes really important, especially for the Jets who are going to want to run a lot of Breece Hall. There's a chance that he could get franchise tagged in Indianapolis, you know, like any of these guys. It's not a guarantee that he hits the open market, but if the dominoes fall and T. Higgins is back and Ridley signs somewhere else, but Michael Pittman shakes free, absolutely, that's a name that I would like to go after.
Yeah, and it's cool to see that the Jets are definitely going to be going after a receiver because we're loading up with Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like, you know, that's what's given us Jets fans a lot of excitement for the season all over again, is just because of the idea of Aaron Rodgers returning is just exciting, right? And you look at the season last year, the Jets won 7 games without Aaron Rodgers, right? And you just have to assume that with Aaron Rodgers, the offense is not going to be ranked 32nd, at least I hope. Right. So I think that we could string together 3 or 4 more wins to get to 10, 11 more wins with the defense still progressing and the offense maybe taking a step with Aaron Rodgers loading it all up. But obviously the elephant in the room here, there's a bigger need, in my opinion, than wide receiver. That's offensive line. And the offensive line, I think, has been a lot of to do with the issues has been injuries. Other has been talent evaluation. It's been, you know, personnel. It's been a lot of different things. Mekhi Becton is a pending free agent. We saw him with Aaron Rodgers, who took the entire offensive line out together for golfing and, you know, to a hockey game. And Jake, just want to get your thoughts about Aaron Rodgers immediately in the offseason, hanging out with the Jets offensive line and getting to know them. Because that just tells me, and it's just like, I didn't really need this justification because he kind of proved it to me, even like right when he took the contract restructure before the season began. But it really genuinely feels like Aaron Rodgers is all in with this team and he's doing everything in his power to get chemistry and to like bond with this team. Because I think a quarterback offensive line relationship is essential. So I thought it was really cool to see Aaron Rodgers with the boys out there golfing and doing their thing.
100%. And notice how little coverage there was of that because it doesn't fit the narrative that Rodgers is a bad guy or a bad teammate. I mean, it's comical, man. He's done everything you could ask. It's not his fault. He got hurt on play 4. He's been committed to the organization. No one brings up the fact that we'll do it every time I talk about him. He took the largest pay cut in team sports history, gave back $35 million at a lower cap hit than Zach Wilson this past year. So look, he's all in. The question's going to be, what is he like off this injury? I think the fact that he's basically at 100% now and will be ready to roll by the time we get to week 1, I still expect him to be a very good quarterback, and he'll make you better. And then you got to make sure you do everything in your power to make this team as good as it could possibly be around them. And that starts with the O-line. So they're going to have to fill some needs in free agency there. And then I still think if we're betting on what pick 10 of the draft is going to be, it's going to be a tackle unless we see some crazy moves in free agency or a trade. I still fully expect pick 10 to be used on one of the linemen that's there.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about the coverage of that. Why would the national media cover something positive about Aaron Rodgers, right? Just doesn't fit the narrative that everyone loves to make Aaron Rodgers this villain. We got the first super chat of the show. eBoogie says, trade AVT. I'm already not about it, but let's read the rest. To the Arizona Cardinals to move up to 4 and get the late first 27, yes or no? 20-0, baby. Second question, if this happens, okay, Harrison or Joe Alt. Matt, your thoughts of this hypothetical?
Oh, you have to put me on the spot first for this one?
I like
Oh,
you.
God.
For some reason, you reading these super chats is like just hilarious.
I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this. I don't think this is a very realistic option for the New York Jets. I'm trying to so they're giving up pick 10 and AVT for 4 and 27. Is that the trade package here? They don't have they have what, 2 offensive linemen that you're comfortable with, one of them being AVT, the other Joe Tippmann. I understand you'd be able to draft one then, but man, it feels like cutting your nose to spite your face to do something like that. So I'm going to pass. I'll just stay put and take whatever offensive lineman is there for me at 10.
How about you, Ryan? Is it attractable to you, this trade?
No, absolutely not. This is absolutely asinine. I'm sorry, you boogie. You're wrong. You're incredibly wrong. I would look, if it's possible at all, to trade Bryce Huff and our 10 pick to move up to number 5 with the Chargers, because they're going to lose Khalil Mack. They could, lose Joey Bosa or have to renegotiate him. Maybe there's a situation where you can turn Bryce Huff into, your starting offensive tackle for the future. That would be really interesting to me if you're going to plan on taking a tackle at 10 anyway, and you're just going to lose Bryce Huff. That would be the move I'd look to make.
Yeah, I mean, the Bryce Huff situation is definitely interesting because no one wants to get rid of Bryce Huff, but we also don't want him to walk for nothing. So that's where Joe Douglas and the Jets front office have to make a big decision here. Number one, are they going to be able to afford the contract that he's looking for? And to be honest with you guys, I don't think they will be able to. You see teams, and the one team that scares the living crap out of me to land Bryce Huff is the Patriots, because the Patriots have so much cap space. They can afford overpaying him. I won't say overpay. I think whatever money Bryce Huff gets, it's going to be worth it. But that's a team to look out for. Hopefully, we don't see that happening. But Jake, I don't think I need to ask you about your thoughts of this super chat, because I think I know you agree, or do you have a different take on what Ryan and Matt already had to say?
It's just not going to happen. It'd be fascinating in a world where the Jets are on the clock at 4, but why would the Cardinals want to do this? It doesn't make any sense for them. They're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. if we assume the first 3 picks in the draft are going to be quarterbacks, and that's going to be that.
As I think the Patriots might go Marvin Harrison Jr. I think there's.
You don't think they're going to go quarterback?
I'm not.
Gerard Mayo's already telling us his plans. I feel like he already said they're going quarterback.
We're going to take a very important position.
Yeah,
I don't know. I could see them go for quarterback at the top of the second, or trade back into the first. I feel like that's
the
where
Patriots,
the value is.
as much as we all hate them, they are a very intriguing storyline for this offseason. Just from an NFL scope, where they're going, new coach, new regime, everything's gonna be different with the Patriots. And I'm hopeful we sweep their asses so we can start a streak. 3 in a row, Jake. Come on now.
Right.
Let's go against this damn Patriots. My man Jack's in the chat. The studio's filled with sexiness today. Jack,
Ooh, look at that.
love you, man. Appreciate you, bro. Now, speaking of the New England Patriots, they got a new coach. Bill Belichick is out of here. Now, I think, from a Jets fan perspective, it's a breath of fresh air that he's gone. But now they have a new energy. It's Gerard Mayo. So, Jake, what's your thoughts of the New England Patriots? Because I think they're entering an interesting trajectory where I don't think they're going to be a contender, obviously, this upcoming year. But if things do fall in their favor, if they get the right quarterback, which is probably the most important piece of everything, and with the amount of cap space that they have, they're entering a rebuild, and I feel like they're looking at a 3-year window. What's your overall thoughts and assessment of the New England Patriots? Do you think they have a chance to build something special, or do you not see it at all because of how depleted this roster is and your overall assessment of Gerard Mayo? Because we don't really know what to expect from him as a head coach.
Look, after what the Texans just did, you can't ever rule out a quick turnaround with any team if they hit on their quarterback. But we got to see what quarterback they're going to take, if they're going to go quarterback, because as Ryan brought up, hey, maybe there's a chance they wouldn't go quarterback. But I kind of hope from a Patriots standpoint, history continues to repeat itself. Any Bill Belichick disciple has not been a good head coach. And Gerard Mayo, hopefully, is the latest example of that, right? I mean, he might be good, he might not, but history is on the side of, well, if he comes from the Belichick tree, he's not going to be very good. Like, who's been the most successful Bill Belichick disciple? It's probably Bill O'Brien. If you just look at record, it's not Mangini. It's not Romeo Crennel. It's not Matt Patricia. Like, it's not Josh McDaniels. Well, Vrabel never coached for Belichick, though. He coached under Urban Meyer and he coached under Bill O'Brien. So, like, he played for him, but he technically never coached with him. So I think it's a little different. And, I basically say all that to say I'm thrilled they didn't hire Mike Vrabel, because Mayo might be good. I'm not going to just bury him. I mean, things change in the NFL, but I'm glad they didn't hire Mike Vrabel. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and you look around the league, big NFL news is Harbaugh going to the Chargers. That's definitely going to shake up everything in the AFC, because the one thing we've all thought about the Chargers, at least I've thought of, is like they are a coach away. I mean, like Justin Herbert is a franchise quarterback, and they just haven't had the right guy to just like pair him up with it. And now they got Harbaugh. I mean, we don't have to worry about him in terms of our division, but if the Jets want to go on a run in the AFC, that's a team that we have to look out for. And you look at the AFC title game upcoming this Sunday. The Chiefs are in it for the 6th straight year when everybody didn't expect them to, because they didn't look the same. You got the Ravens, who seem like an absolute powerhouse, and you got the Bills doing what Bills usually do, losing in the playoffs. That's a good segue to the Buffalo Bills. I love you, Bills Mafia. I feel like everyone, Bills Mafia, doesn't like me anymore. It's okay. It's all love, guys. Bills lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. We talked about the game last week. I want to get your thoughts of that game, Ryan. The Buffalo Bills had the Kansas City Chiefs come to their house. They had an opportunity to slay the dragon and to put the Kansas City Chiefs on the couch. Josh Allen had a chance to beat Patrick Mahomes, and he didn't. Kansas City heads to Buffalo. They're back to the AFC title game for the 6th straight year. Now, I had a lot of people hating on me because I was picking the Chiefs. And Bills fans were like, what do you mean? Like, look at the Chiefs receivers. Like, what do you mean? They look suspect. I'm like, first of all, they have the same exact record. Let's not forget that the Chiefs literally won their division and have the same exact wins as the Bills. Mahomes looks suspect, but he's still winning. And they are the Kansas City Chiefs. And I trust them in the playoffs over the Bills, because what people don't understand, and us Jets fans don't get it either because we haven't been to the playoffs, regular season and playoff ball are completely different. And I trust Patrick Mahomes in the big games more than I trust Josh Allen. That's why I was picking the Chiefs. So what was your overall thoughts of that game? Because it was definitely a one that came down to the wire that the Chiefs were able to win. Wide right.
Yeah, dude, I thought Buffalo was going to pull this one out. Like, I really thought they were going to, get the Chiefs number this time. I thought the Chiefs this season beat up on a bad division. The Broncos, the Raiders, the Chargers, all picking top 12, I think, in the draft. So, I thought the success was a little bit of smoke and mirrors. Obviously, the defense is really good, but they just clicked like that. They seemed to find that connection between Mahomes and Kelsey at the perfect time against the Bills, and the Bills just couldn't stop it. And I don't know where you go, because I feel like if you're Buffalo, you're kind of like in your last gasp as far as like your cap space and your flexibility moving forward. Josh Allen's cap hit's going to get higher. Von Miller, the best thing he can do for that team is retire. Like, they're in a rough spot right now.
Very rough spot indeed. And I feel like the Buffalo Bills, 4 straight division titles, but we got into a heated debate. And guys, if you did not check out the AFC's Roundtable show last night, please go watch a specific segment, because it was comedy of just Josh Allen comparing him to a guy like Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, and where he's on that pedestal of quarterback ranking. And TD Finstock never knew the quarterbacks that Josh Allen has beaten, because Bills fans like to bring up, well, Josh Allen has 5 playoff wins. And then we had a caller, shout out to Jimmy Casket, who's a Patreon member here on the channel. He came on and was attacking Dan Mitchell and brought up the quarterbacks that Josh Allen beat. And TD's like, hold on one second. Who? And he had to get his notepad out and write it down. And he's like, oh, you're done.
Mason Rudolph. And, it was bad.
Phillip Rivers in his last year.
There it is.
Yep.
That's two.
Lamar got knocked out, I think, in the fourth quarter.
Lamar's the only good name.
And they were They were
That's 3.
ahead in that game too.
You remember the other two, Jake, off the top of your head, the W's that Josh Allen has in the postseason in his career?
Watson.
No, the Dolphins guy from last year.
Skylar Thompson.
Skylar Thompson.
Skylar Thompson.
And then
I'm not sure who the other one is.
who do we? So it's Mac Jones.
Oh, duh. Yeah.
Mac Jones, Mason Rudolph, Phillip Rivers, Skylar Thompson, and Lamar Jackson. So those are the quarterbacks. And that, I love you, Dan Mitchell, but man, Dan was heated last night when we were all going after him about that. So what's your thoughts about Josh Allen, Matt? I'll throw you on the spot. Like, is he on that level? Like, we got into a debate. The morals are surrounding Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen of like who's the better quarterback, and like in terms of accolades, Lamar Jackson's about to win his second MVP. He was named first team All-Pro this year. He has a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Like, where would you weigh like the top quarterbacks in the league today? Like in Josh Allen, where does he fall?
Josh Allen, I think, is still top 5, but I don't think I could justify taking him over how Lamar Jackson with how Lamar's played. I think Lamar gets a lot of unnecessary hate, and there's a lot of narratives that were probably true about him early on in his career with passing that they still try to push now, where it's like, oh, if you want to beat the Ravens, just have Lamar drop back and throw the ball. Like, yeah, maybe in 2018 that would work, but not. I wouldn't suggest doing that now. I still think Josh is an incredible talent. I do think he's a little bit on the overrated side. Like, I can't put him 2. I think, when healthy, Joe Burrow's up there, Lamar's up there. I would take Herbert over Josh Allen. But then I think that's where Allen comes in for me, is around 5.
The saddest part about all those quarterbacks you listed is they're all in the AFC.
Yep.
What are we doing here? Let's balance out the conferences. Like, God's sakes. But luckily, we have my man, great member of the channel, Bills fan. Jets aren't going to be good. Aaron Rodgers is old and overrated. This is what he has to say with our slander to his quarterback, Josh Allen. What's your response to that, Jake?
I mean, look, that's going to be the storyline until Rodgers comes back and actually plays for the Jets. I get it. That being said, it wasn't that long ago Aaron Rodgers was winning back-to-back MVPs. So, I mean, we've seen what the Jets are trying to do work. It worked in Denver. It worked in Tampa. Like, you just got to actually see Rodgers play. I mean, I don't know. You want to say Allen's better than Rodgers? That's fine, but who's got the better roster? I think with the Bills kind of roster in flux right now, there's a very good chance the Jets could actually be pretty close to being the betting favorites for the AFC East by week 1 next year. Like, we'll see how the offseason goes, but after watching the Bills in the playoffs and the Dolphins in the playoffs, I don't feel like the Jets are that far away with a healthy Rodgers from competing in the AFC East.
And Jake, I want you to answer one more chat for me. This is a Dolphins fan saying, I know the Jets finished above 500 once in the last 14 years. What do you have to say to this?
Well, I would say the last time the Miami Dolphins won a playoff game, Bryce Huff was not born yet. That's what I would like to say.
They released the PlayStation 2. They still had dial-up internet. Like,
well, actually, if you combine the Bills and Dolphins playoff wins since the year 2000, the Jets have won more than both those teams combined, and the Jets haven't made the playoffs longer than any team in football. So what does that tell you about your franchises?
That's the stat. I posted on the community tab of the AFC's Roundtable to spark some little debate there. Do you know that stat, Matt, that the New York Jets have more playoff wins than the Dolphins and Bills combined in the last 25 years, and we haven't been to the postseason in 13 years?
That's a shame. And also the Dallas Cowboys are on that list too. Well, not if you combine it, but if you want to look at the Dallas Cowboys playoff wins since 2000 and the Jets, I believe it's 6-4. So these are really just things you hate to see. You don't like it, but sometimes you got to talk about it.
And the beautiful thing about combining the Bills and the Dolphins playoff wins is there's no combining. It's just 5 + 0 = 5 because the Miami Dolphins continue to not make runs in the postseason, but at least we make it there. Well, when the Jets make it there, at least we make some noise, baby, because that is the beautiful thing. Trivia question to you, Jake. Who is the last quarterback to be in the AFC Championship? Who are the 2 quarterbacks that the last time met without Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes in it?
That would be the great Mark Eugene Sanchez. and Big Ben.
Incredible.
Isn't that crazy to think about? The last time we saw an AFC title game without Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes was Mark Sanchez.
Bro, Sanchez has been to more AFC title games than Josh Allen. Like, I'm tired of hearing about how great Josh Allen is. He doesn't beat anyone. Like, he's an outstanding quarterback, but can you win something? Please.
For real. And like Master at Work admitted last night, our Patriots representative, that Jets win in Foxborough in the divisional was probably the worst loss he's ever took as a Patriots fan. Like, he never felt more anger in his life from a loss than that loss.
That was our Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me.
That's the highlight of my Jets fandom. I mean, I've been on this planet 28 years, but that's it for me. Is a divisional round win up in Foxborough.
Oh my gosh. I mean, when is it going to stack up? When are we going to get more than that? I mean, it can't wait from Bart Scott to make it feel like we're going all the way, and then for us to lose to the Steelers and then the Colts. It's upsetting, but it is what it is. We got some super chats. You guys need a Shadow Realm closet. Jay Stone, a clown. Oh, well, we actually just talked to Jay Stone. And we had some interesting talks. So Jay Stone, John, let's call you a clown. You might be onto something. Tony, yo ho ho. The greatest story was never told. Hashtag wide right. Look at these shots at our guy Dan Mitchell. Yo ho ho. The greatest tragedy ever told is what we call it now, Tony. The greatest tragedy.
Do you think he missed the kick because of the black eyeshadow under the one eye? Do you think the light got there and that was the reason?
Could be.
I also think Dan Mitchell sent Sean McDermott the part of the script of the greatest story ever told, where we need to do a direct snap to DeMar Hamlin in order to make this the greatest story ever told.
Master at Work had the greatest comment for that. He called it a Make-A-Wish play to DeMar Hamlin. I was like, that's terrible and amazing at the same time.
Oh my god. Oh gosh, you gotta love it, man. Dane with the super chat. Poor Matt, the smelling fart.
Yeah. I mean, look, tough spot, but we make it work here at the Jets Media Studio. It's a little tough.
It's not my fault that Matt's 6'8".
Yeah, I wore Tim's today too, so if I stand up straight, I'm probably like 6'6" right now.
Matt's actually 10 feet behind us right now.
I am. Yeah, it's an optical illusion. It's actually a lot bigger.
It is an illusion if you think about it.
Ow, he banged into me. No, I'm kidding.
I could back up a little bit. I mean, I did say to Ryan that we do have like a couch setup over there, and I would love to that would be the setup, but that's like a lot of rearranging. I don't know if I want to do that right now. So we're stuck here. Okay. This is meant for 2 people. We're jamming in 3 people, and it's okay. Okay.
Ryan forgot deodorant today.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey,
running a little 2-hour drive. It's stanky.
It is what it is. And another super chat from Slinksy. Josh Allen plays bad quarterbacks in the playoffs because he's the 2nd seed playing trash 7 seeds. Now, okay.
The 7 seed came in last year.
And then what? He gets the win. And then what happens in the divisional round? Or the conference championship? L's. After L's. But wins aren't a quarterback stat. Oh, here we go. Are we going into this debate again? I mean, come on now. Hawk says Mark Sanchez has more playoff wins than Kirk Cousins, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray combined. We got to get Mark Sanchez back. I mean, he's part of the team, as a podcast with Nick Mangle, which is great. But Mark Sanchez, I got to start appreciating you more, man. But we do appreciate the $7 Canadian. I'm pretty sure that's Canadian, right? Thank you, man. John with the $2. So everyone coming to AZ for the game next year. So there's a lot of awesome away games for the New York Jets next year. One of them is in Arizona. One of them, I believe, is San Francisco, Nashville. Those are the 3 cities that I'm at least aiming for sure. There's some rumors that the Jets could be headed to London potentially because the Minnesota Vikings and the Jacksonville Jaguars have home games there. The Jets are versing them on the road, so the Jets could also be in London. Is there any away game that you guys are aiming for, if any, Ryan?
So the London game's really cool because I think that's definitely going to happen. I think it's a standalone game without needing to put him on prime time just in case the surgery didn't go well or something. But I would look for the Nashville game. I think that's really exciting. I've never been before.
Me neither.
That would be a fun spot to kind of post up for a few days. So maybe we'll make a trip.
Yeah, Nashville, San Francisco, Arizona.
These are all great choices. I think I would probably go Nashville one, do a little Grand Ole Opry on Saturday into all those bars, and then make it out somehow on Sunday, or go over to the motherland. We go a little Ireland first, and then to the into the game on the 9 o'clock. Well, it's whatever it is their time, but then go to the game in London. That'd be cool too. So yeah, I would say those two would probably rank pretty high up on my list.
I did tell myself after the Jets were in London a few years ago, the next time they're back in London, I'm going. Like, I just want to be there. Like, that would be so awesome to travel across the pond. Jake, if the Jets go to London this year, are you going to be there, or what's your thoughts about traveling over there?
Yeah, I really, really want to go to the London game, assuming they play Jacksonville or Minnesota. So if that happens, you guys are in, we got to do like one giant like content creator like
Right.
planned
That'd be
meetup or
blast.
something like that.
That would be sick.
'Cause, oh my god, but that'd be so
Get an
much fun.
English Airbnb or something. Like some type of like content house. We'll plan it. That'd be awesome.
Yep.
All right, Goodell, get us over in London. I'm sold. Dane with another super chat. Come to Pittsburgh, party bus style, and I need backup. Oh, we're in Pittsburgh, are we?
Are they in Pittsburgh this year? That's.
I think we are.
Yeah, I guess
I didn't know
'cause
that.
we have we're playing third place in the AFC North, right? So
Yeah, we're out
No,
of the
they were
fourth
first.
place though.
Oh no, they got
No.
they got the wild card. So did
Yeah, they were behind the Browns.
And then okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
we
guess
are.
they are.
So
It
we're in
worked out.
Pittsburgh.
You avoid the Bengals, who only came in fourth place because Burrow got hurt with a 9-8 record. So third place was better to avoid having to go to Cincinnati.
Yo,
Yeah,
who do you
it-
think ends up in Pittsburgh? Like, you think Russell Wilson goes to play for Tomlin, or does he go to like the Raiders? To
The
go
Russell
get
Wilson
back?
thing, I like kind of forget about.
Yeah.
$1
Like that's
million.
even an off-season thing.
He's not even going to get a big contract because he's got all the guaranteed money from Denver. So he's going to sign a 1-year, $1.1 million deal and just like have all the salary cap space in the world.
Steelers, I feel like would be a good option.
Steelers, Raiders, Atlanta would be another good one if Belichick's trying to get as many wins as possible. I think that could make a lot of sense.
I think the Raiders would be my guess.
That's
I could
my
see
guess,
him
too.
going to Vegas.
Wow, Russell Wilson is on his way. But what does Denver do at quarterback?
They could draft. I could see them draft one. I could see them also like, not that they would necessarily start like a Zach Wilson, but I could see them trading and just having a tank year this year because they're going to eat so much dead cap space from the Russell contract. I would hit the reset button right now. And then, if you have a quarterback that's competing with Zach or one of them looks good, then maybe you feel better about them with a bad team that you would want to surround them with some talent, or you play poorly enough that you draft your quarterback in 2025. I think that's maybe more the route I would look for them.
Speaking of quarterbacks, I want to ask you guys a question. I'll ask you, Jake. What are the Jets doing with Zach Wilson? And when I say that, like, we're obviously seems like we're going to trade them, but what team do you see out there that would like to take a flyer on Zach Wilson to maybe be a backup developmental piece? Like, is there a specific team that you think out there that would want to trade whatever compensation necessary to bring Zach Wilson in?
Well, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot of compensation. I think it's like a day 3 pick. It could be like a 6th round pick for a 7th type of swap, or maybe like a 5th for a 6th type of swap. What team? I mean, Kansas City, I guess, would make some sense because of Andy Reid. Minnesota, maybe with Kevin O'Connell, would make some sense. They don't really have any quarterbacks on their roster. Arizona, potentially, as like a backup to Kyler, I could see. Those are like the 3 teams that like I instantly thought of. But I'm sure like a lot of teams would maybe be in on Zach Wilson as like a number 3 quarterback. I don't know how many are dying to have him be their number 2, given the amount of injuries we saw at the quarterback position this past year.
Yeah, and of course the Jets not only need to get a backup quarterback this year, but like I kind of want a long-term answer at quarterback, just like to develop. Matt, do you see the Jets drafting a quarterback this year? I know you were doing your mock draft Mondays, like you've done a lot of different scenarios. Like, are the Jets going to try to get and throw the dart on the board this year to draft like quarterback 3 to develop in redshirt for the long term, or do you think that's something that they'll prioritize in the next offseason?
I don't think they're going to use like a 1st or a 3rd round pick on a quarterback. They don't have a 2nd right now. So assuming they don't move back or don't get a 2nd, let's just deal with what they have for now. I think those first 2 picks will be something to help the 2024 offense. But beyond that, once you get in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, I would really look to draft someone and just have them sit for a couple years, and hope that you find, your Dak Prescott, who's a 4th round pick, or Brock Purdy, as we know, is the last pick of the draft. Sometimes you never know. And worst case scenario, like maybe he just develops and is your long-term backup quarterback, right? Like it doesn't hurt. They're all dart throws anyway, but I would take a developmental quarterback on day 3, I think this year.
I know that you're a giant advocate for the Jets to draft J.J. McCarthy.
Apparently, yeah. I don't know where this came from. You know what drives me absolutely insane is for mock draft Mondays. People are very, very dumb. Sorry to take over the show for a
No,
second.
this is why I
but-
said it. Are you kidding?
No, because I do a different scenario every single Monday. Every week, if I did what I would want to do, I'd post the same fucking mock draft every single week. So I do different styles. And in one of them, I traded back, and JJ McCarthy was there in the second round. So I was like, all right, I'll take JJ McCarthy. But you know what I do? Secret time. I'm going to peek behind the curtain. Every time I post the graphic on Twitter of the mock draft Monday, I instantly mute. I don't look at any of the notifications because half these people are morons. So yeah, I don't read your comments anyway. I don't see what you're saying about me. And I really don't want JJ McCarthy, but in that particular mock draft, that's what I did.
Oh my God. Like I knew that was coming, which is why I had to poke the bear a little bit.
No, thank you. You riled me up a little bit. That's good.
Because I know what you do. This is a scenario, trade back scenario. This is this scenario. But in their eyes, Matt O'Leary wants us to draft JJ McCarthy. What an idiot. This guy stinks. Who's subscribing to this guy? You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
Oh my God, trust me. I know. Ryan, what's your thoughts of that little rant?
So I love it, Matt. I can feel the heat seething off of you right now. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we're in
yeah.
person. It's
Oh,
not
I
like
know.
virtual. So I like feel it.
So I want the Jets to go after a quarterback on day 3 as well. Some sort of third quarterback on the roster. But as far as a backup goes, I want someone that could be our Geno Smith. You know, like right around 30 years old, might have that sort of secondary, 3-4 years of juice left in him. So I'm looking at like maybe a Brissett or, it would be interesting, like a Tyler Huntley or something along those lines, like real outside the box sort of throw for a backup. I think Tannehill's probably the most likely to end up in New York, but I want someone that you could maybe have as an heir apparent to Rodgers in conjunction with drafting a late round dart throw.
Yeah, I think that's really, really likely. Jake, is there anything in particular you see the Jets go in the quarterback realm this offseason? Because that definitely needs to be a priority after what we saw last year.
Yeah, 100%. To me, the only chance I could see them taking a quarterback on day 2 of the draft, so it'd be either in the second or the third round, would be if they traded down from pick 10 and they recouped a second round pick, kind of what Matt was talking about on one of his like mock draft scenarios. Then maybe if Penix is there, McCarthy's there, and they feel strongly about him, they can make that move. But I think the only scenario where they would actually go quarterback in all likelihood is day 3. They take a flyer on someone. And there's some guys I like. Jordan Travis could be QB3 and sit for the year. Like Sam Hartman, I did a mock, and he was there in the 5th round, the quarterback from Notre Dame. I took him. So there's some guys that they could take a flyer on. I just don't think it's going to be anything that substantial on day 1 or day 2.
Yeah, I agree. That's like very, very interesting topic that we need to start thinking about in terms of the quarterback, because we have our quarterback and it's Aaron Rodgers, but we need some type of plan behind him. Now, I kind of want to pivot to another team, which we haven't really talked about a lot besides hating on him, the Miami Dolphins. Vic Fangio has stepped down, and now he is going to be the defensive coordinator for Philadelphia. Now, the whole news about Fangio going to Miami in the first place was he never wanted to be there, and now it's proven. And now Mike McDaniel seems like, he's an offensive mind, and he can't figure out to get that defensive coordinator. Brian Flores, when he was with Miami, he was a defensive mind. He couldn't figure out to get the offensive coordinator. You look at the Jets with Robert Saleh. He's got the defense figured out. He can't get an offensive coordinator. So I think there's a consistent trend here around the NFL. When you're a one-sided head coach, that opposite side of the ball needs to be figured out. And the Dolphins haven't figured it out now. The Jets, maybe Aaron Rodgers will save it. Who knows? But what's your thoughts about that, Ryan? Vic Fangio stepping down, and now he's going to Philadelphia. Like, what does that say about Miami as a franchise?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. This is one of those things where, he shut down the Jets offense. Not that the Jets offense was anything to write home about, but I don't want to go against this guy consistently in the future. So him being out of there, I'm right on board with that. I hope they, can't stop a nosebleed next year. That's really what I'm hoping for. And pay Tua. He deserves a ton of money.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tua is arguably, on pace to be the highest paid quarterback behind Mahomes or Burrow, whoever it is. And I think that's a really good decision. Matt, your thoughts about Vic Fangio?
I think it's unfortunate that he left, but there's really only one solution for the Miami Dolphins right now. Well, really two. We start with what Ryan said. You pay Tua number one, and then you bring in defensive guru.
Adam Gase.
No, that's an offensive guru. Brandon Staley, recently let go from the Los Angeles Chargers. Had that was his biggest problem there. Defensive guy. He had that defense going in high gear. It was just that Justin Herbert guy was really holding him back. So if I'm Miami, that's what I would do. I'd bring in Brandon Staley, up and coming defensive mind. Going to be better in his second stint somewhere. That's the move.
Yeah, I think I did see his name get brought up, linking to the Miami Dolphins. Jake, what's your thoughts about Vic Fangio leaving the division?
Yeah, I think it's great because he's really good. So I think it weakens Miami's defense until we see what they do. There's a guy out there that I don't know if anyone's mentioned as a possibility. I think he'd be a great fit. He's good at his job because anytime you see him coaching, he's always got a pencil in his ear, and that is Matt Patricia. He's the answer for the Dolphins. If you want to win a playoff game, Dolphins fans, for the first time in 24 years, but who's counting? You need to hire Matt Patricia.
I second that. I think that Matt Patricia is a very underrated. He's never been given the opportunity. Like he's never really been given. I couldn't keep straight face. All right. Oh, I tried. I broke character. I lost. I lost the character. But yeah, go get Matt Patricia. Master Orc last night in the show, he was like, TD, breaking news. Miami Dolphins looking to hire Matt Patricia. And TD's like, freaking out. He's like looking at Twitter, just trying to figure it out, but obviously he was joking. That would be great. Let us know in the chat, any Miami Dolphins fans that are watching, which defensive coordinator are you interested in? Like, what defensive minds, because we're not in that market as Jets fans. Like, I don't even know, like, a big defensive name that the Dolphins should even be pursuing in, like, an actual non-joking manner. Like, who's out there? No one! You guys are still going to suck. I think that's
Ron Rivera.
Carl retired to, like, fucking Miami?
I don't
As a
think
DC?
as a DC, I don't think so. I'd be surprised.
Rivera's an interesting one that Jake just brought up.
Oh, okay, yeah, I like
John
that.
wants Staley.
Take him.
Yeah, absolutely.
What? Sure.
Yeah, I think your OC should be Josh McDaniel too. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't really, because we're not in the market of that as Jets fans, so I honestly have no idea, like, what DCs are even, like, out there to bring in.
Yeah, I have no idea.
What
who's around.
if the Jets and Dolphins just combined forces, and then you'd have the Jets defense with Salah and the Dolphins offense with McDaniel, and then like maybe
Rodgers is
yes.
We tried to do that with LaFleur, and it just. I like McDaniel so much more than.
Me too.
I wish he was our offensive mind.
And on the NFC West roundtable, I was talking to the Rams guy. Jake is his name. Sorry, Jake. Another Jake there. And I asked him, what are your thoughts about LaFleur? And he was like raving about him. He was like so happy to have him. It's like, I don't know how you guys let him go. Like, he was a scapegoat. And it's like, all right, dude. Like, shut up.
I mean, I do agree to some
agree.
extent. Like, the guy was like scheming dudes open. We just didn't have a quarterback.
And he said that he had a big impact on this year. Like, he
Yeah.
had a very creative outlook of like kind of opening up new run situations that McVay didn't even have, which I find interesting because you think that's all McVay. But yeah, what's your thoughts of that, Jake? The Jets getting rid of LaFleur and him kind of prospering in LA.
I just think it's easier to prosper though when you have Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Sean McVay is one of the best coaches in the league. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to dog on LaFleur too much because compared to Hackett, he's obviously way better. I think the problem with LaFleur wasn't his schemes, the X's and O's stuff. I think it was like player relationship stuff. Like LaFleur to me, if you could combine like Hackett's personality, how he gets along with players, and LaFleur's like offensive mind, I think you'd actually would have a hell of an offensive coordinator for the Jets, especially with Rodgers. So it just and it didn't match up. And you know what the craziest part of LaFleur is? I learned this after the fact from someone who has privy to the Jets thinking when they drafted Zach. LaFleur was pounding the table for Zach Wilson. Like that was his guy. He liked Zach Wilson better than Trevor Lawrence, to put it in perspective. So then when you hear the stories that they ended up not getting along and Zach, had a lot to do with LaFleur basically being jettisoned out of there, it makes you go, wow, like how bad was that relationship considering LaFleur really wanted Zach Wilson to be his guy.
Very interesting. Now, the Jets are adding some offensive coaching staff, right? They're going to add some names. They got a vacancy at the running backs coach. And I think they're also going to add some more consultant and some people that are kind of not going to fill roles, but just be an additional type of, addition to the offensive side of the ball in terms of the coaching. And you also see the opposite side of the ball for the Jets. Our special teams and defensive coaches getting plucked away. So you see the difference there. I think Saleh deserves a little credit that the defensive and special teams coaching staff is sensational, but the offense, not so much. So, Matt, what's the latest that you've been hearing about the Jets running back coach vacancy and the overall just offensive coaches that the Jets are looking to add?
Yeah, it would have been nice to add Deuce Staley. That's a name that is really well respected around the league. Was an assistant coach last year in Carolina, was an assistant coach even when he was with Detroit, and then before that in Philadelphia under Andy Reid. So obviously he's had a lot of success in this league at that position with that positional group. I think they're going to pivot to Tony Dews, the running back coach from Tennessee. He was with them from 2018 to 2022, and then this past year he was their tight ends coach. Didn't have a ton of success with the tight end room, but with the running back room, some of Derrick Henry's best years were under him. Derrick Henry didn't really pop until 2018. Which was the first year that he took over as the job. And Henry was saying, like, this guy's so smart. He should be, an NFL head coach one day. And I think that would just be an improvement from what the Jets had in Taylor Embry, who was a wide receiver and never really coached running backs before he got to the Jets.
I like that idea too, with like the longevity of the career that Derrick Henry has had. If you can like boost up Breece's career length for like that same sort of duration, I feel like that would be awesome if there was any impact there.
Yeah, and Dane has a $2 super chat. Can we get a running back coach to remind staff about number 20?
Yep.
And number 20, his name is Bryce Hall, by the way. And he's coming off a year where, like, it's such an underrated running back season because you look at the Jets, no one thinks anything good is on their offense because we're last. But the man was second behind Christian McCaffrey in all-purpose yards in a terrible offense with a terrible offensive line. Can you imagine what Bryce Hall is going to look like next year? In year 3, a year removed from ACL, right? Like usually they say the next year after the ACL, you're finding yourself. And then that third year is kind of where you're back to old form, if not even better. So definitely Jets fans should expect a lot of good things from Bryce Hall. We got another super chat from John. I think Frank Reich comes in. We like fired coaches.
I would take him in a
Yeah,
heartbeat.
he'd be a huge upgrade over what they had if he was just like some sort of consultant.
Yeah, and if you wanted to have some type of inside track on like a head coaching search after, like if we decide to pull the plug on everything, having a guy in-house that's been here before might not be the worst, footprint for him to land in. But he's getting paid, guaranteed money from the Carolina Panthers. He could just sit at home.
That is true.
That's the
when you're head coach and get canned in year 1, you're pretty set for a long time. Jake, what have you heard from the Jets offensive coaching staff standpoint of what they're adding, if anybody? Who's out there that you want them to add?
Yeah, Frank Reich, I'd be good with. Jay or John Gruden, I would be thrilled with. They have run the West Coast offense before. Just getting someone in there with experience. Alex Van Pelt was fired by the Browns. He's a guy that has experience with Rodgers and Hackett from Green Bay. The Browns seemed like they were really well coached this past year. I just want to add someone to that staff because I'm still a disbelief that to this point, the only staff change the Jets are making on offense is the running backs coach. Like, really? That's it? Like, come on. So I'll take any of those names you guys have mentioned. It's mind-boggling. They've done nothing to this point besides no Taylor Embry, and they're going to replace him with another guy from the magical Tennessee Titans staff that gave us Keith Carter and Todd Downing.
What about Luke Getsy, the OC from the Bears? He used to be Rodgers' quarterback coach. He was a wide receiver coach over in Green Bay. The first year, so he was with Green Bay, not as the wide receivers coach at first. They drafted Devontae Adams the year he went on staff. Then 2 years later, he becomes wide receivers coach, and all of a sudden, Devontae Adams goes from, I think it was 3 or 4 touchdowns in his first 2 years to 22, I think, over the course of 2 years. His first Pro Bowl. Turn Garrett Wilson into maybe like that level of production. So Aaron Rodgers.
I feel like when it comes to the offensive coaching staff, the one addition that we're going to have that's going to trump everything else is Aaron Rodgers, because I think he's like more than a quarterback. He is the system. And let's not forget the whole talking point of the training camp last offseason was CJ Uzama would always say it, like, we are all trying to see the game through Aaron's eyes. And like, that tells me like everything you need to know about where this offense is trying to do here. And I think offensive coach is going to help, of course, but we need Aaron Rodgers healthy. And I think that the injury to Aaron Rodgers, this coaching staff just wasn't prepared. He was the system. They didn't have a backup plan. And let's hope that they can actually have a backup plan just in case anything happens again, which won't happen, by the way, because Aaron Rodgers is about to be healthy and take us to the promised land. So folks, we're going to wrap up the show here on the Jets Roundtable, guys. If you could do us a favor before we wrap it up, though, let's get this to up to 100 likes. We're at 77 likes right now. Please do us a gigantic favor. Hit that like button, folks. It's been a pleasure to be live here on the AFC East Roundtable YouTube channel presented by Roundtable Sports on the Jets Roundtable show every Thursday, 1 p.m. EST. Jake, pleasure to have you on as usual. Ryan and Matt coming here to the Jets Media Studio. It's always been a vision of mine to kind of get creators together and do things in person, because you get to see, talk shows on TV, WFAN, ESPN radio. All those guys are like in a little, with the radio and with the mics in person. This is why it was cool to have both Ryan and Matt here. Jake's going to be back in New York sooner rather than later. So hopefully we can figure stuff out to get all four of us together in one notion. So Jake, anything you want to say before we wrap things up, my man?
Yeah, I mean, I got over the fact that I wasn't invited to the studio, so good job. And also, I hope that Richie, you and Matt make sure that Ryan experiences some Long Island pizza, right? I mean, let's make it clear: Long Island pizza greater than Jersey pizza.
That's fair.
There's a robbery there.
Not having any issues with that. I love pizza. I'll go.
Perfect.
How about you, Matt? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, maybe we got what else is a Long Island staple? We got to take him to All American or something like that. So
good
before
idea.
he goes back.
Yeah,
All American for sure. Some bagels.
Love bagels. We got some good bagels in Jersey.
They better. I mean, Matt and I are gluten free, so I mean,
You guys can't even eat
we'll go to
bagels.
Bare Naked.
Yeah, we'll go. Yeah, we'll shout out Bare Naked Bakery.
Shout out Bare Naked Bakery, sponsors of they're not. But,
They should.
They
Oh my
should.
God, I
Can you
would
imagine?
Please.
Oh man, I mean, hey, celiac disease. Let's go. Anything you want to say, Ryan, before you get out of here?
Yeah, just gonna break down some draft content, Senior Bowl stuff, free agent stuff over on the channel. Jets Talk 24/7.
And then just shameless little plug here, guys. Don't forget, Mr. Ryan is the host of our first Roundtable Sports show on the Roundtable Sports YouTube channel, which is titled 3 and Out. It's a game show. It's live every Monday at 7:30 p.m. EST. We're really excited to continue launching that. TD Fins Talk, USCF Jaguar. We had the Colts guy. We have a lot of different representatives on there cycling through. Ryan is a great host and producer of that show. So if you guys are not familiar with that, definitely go check it out. It's on the Roundtable Sports YouTube channel. And hopefully we'll get Jake and Matt on there to compete, because there's a heated rivalry already brewing up between the people that's going on there. And it's been a lot of fun. So Ryan, you've been killing it on that show. This Jets Roundtable has been a pleasure. I don't know what episode this is, but it's cool. We're finally transitioning into the off season. And this is only the beginning of the Jets Roundtable. So we appreciate all you guys tuning in, guys. Let's see how many likes we got. 90 likes. Come on, guys. 10 more. All right, we're out of here. Thank you so much for tuning into the Jets Roundtable, folks. We'll see you next week. Peace out.